Hello everyone. Today we are going to study the 6th chapter of Poetics. Let us start. Of the poetry which imitates in hexameter verse and of comedy we will speak hereafter. Let us now discuss tragedy, resuming its formal definition as resulting from what has been already said. Of the poetry which imitates in hexameter verse. Hexameter verse, here he is talking about epic poetry. So, about epic poetry and of comedy we will speak hereafter. So, we will discuss epic poetry and comedy after some time. Let us now discuss tragedy, resuming its formal definition. So, in this chapter, presently, we will discuss tragedy. We will discuss its definition as resulting from what has been already said. So, whatever we have said already in these 5 chapters, on the basis of that discussion, we will find out the definition of tragedy and we will discuss about its parts. Tragedy then is an imitation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. In language embellished with each kind of artistic ornament, the several kinds being found in separate parts of the play, in the form of action, not of narrative, through pity and fear, effecting the proper purgation of these emotions. So, this is the definition of tragedy according to Aristotle. Tragedy then is an imitation of an action. So, what is tragedy? It is the imitation, it is the representation of an action that is serious, complete, and of a certain magnitude. Serious, you know, that which is not frivolous, which is serious in nature. Complete. Complete means which before and after which there is nothing to be said. That is complete. Complete means before which and after which there is nothing to be said. And of a certain magnitude. Certain magnitude, it must not be either too long or too short. It must have a certain length, a definite length. Magnitude means length. In language embellished, the language of tragedy must be embellished, means decorated, with each kind of artistic ornament. So, the language of tragedy should not be simple language. It should be decorated with linguistic ornaments. The several kinds being found in separate parts of the play. The several kinds of these ornaments, linguistic ornaments, they are to be found in separate parts of the play. In different parts of the play, these linguistic ornaments are to be found. In the form of action, not of narrative. So, tragedy is composed, tragedy is written in the form of action. It means it is to be performed on stage, not of narrative. So, a tragedy is not meant to be narrated. It is meant to be performed on stage. Through pity and fear, effecting the proper purgation of these emotions. So, these two emotions, pity and fear, must be aroused during the play. When audience witness the play, when the audience watch the play in the theatre, these two emotions, pity and fear, must be aroused in their hearts. By language embellished, I mean language into which rhythm, harmony, and song enter. So now he is explaining to you the meaning of these terms which he has used in his definition. By language embellished. So he had used this term here in language embellished, And what does he mean by this term? He means language into which rhythm, harmony and song enter. So the language of tragedy must have rhythm. Rhythm, I already explained to you, it's a pattern of beats, harmony, tune and song. You already know what is song. So in the language of tragedy, there must be rhythm, harmony and song. It must be decorated with these ornaments. According to Aristotle, rhythm, harmony and song, they are the ornaments of language. By the several kinds in separate parts, I mean that some parts are rendered through the medium of verse alone, others again with the aid of song. So by several kinds in separate parts. So this phrase means I mean that some parts are rendered through the medium of verse alone. So in a tragedy, at some places there is only verse, others again with the aid of song. And in some parts of the tragedy there are songs. Now as tragic imitation implies persons acting, it necessarily follows in the first place that spectacular equipment will be a part of tragedy. Now, as tragic imitation implies persons acting. So, what is tragedy? Tragedy is to be acted on stage. Tragedy is to be performed on stage. It necessarily follows in the first place that spectacular equipment will be a part of the tragedy. Spectacular equipment means the decoration, the scenario on the stage. So, it's an essential part of tragedy that on the stage there will be spectacle, there will be a scenario, there will be scene painting. Next, song and diction, for these are the medium of imitation. So next in importance are song and diction. Diction means vocabulary, language, and these are the medium of imitation. So a tragedy represents through this medium of song and vocabulary, diction. By diction, I mean mere metrical arrangement of words. So, he clarifies the meaning of diction. By diction, he means the metrical arrangement of the words. So, the language of tragedy must have meter. It should be arranged according to meter. As for song, it is a term whose sense everyone understands. So he is not going to explain the word song because he thinks that it is a word whose meaning everyone knows already. It needs no clarification. Again, tragedy is the imitation of an action. And an action implies personal agents who necessarily possess certain distinctive qualities both of character and thought, for it is by these that we qualify actions themselves, and these thought and character are the two natural causes from which actions spring, and on actions again all success or failure depends. It's a long sentence. Again, tragedy is the imitation of an action. As he has already told you in his definition of tragedy, that tragedy is the imitation of an action, tragedy is the representation of an action. And an action implies personal agents. And for performing an action, for representing an action, there is the need of personal agents. Means some persons are required to represent that action, who necessarily possess certain distinctive qualities both of character and thought. And now these personal agents, these persons have some qualities. They possess some quality. Every person has some qualities of character and thought. So all of us have some qualities of character and thought. Similarly, the dramatis persona of a tragedy possesses some qualities of character and thought. For it is by these that we qualify actions themselves, and these thought and character are the two natural causes from which actions spring. For it is by these that we qualify actions themselves. So, action is qualified through character and thought. And out of these two things, thought and character, there come out the actions. Actions spring. Spring here means actions come out. Actions come out of thought and character. All the actions of human beings, they come out of the character and thought. They are the products of a person's thought and character. These are the two natural causes. Means these are the two natural sources. All our actions, they come out. The source of all our actions are thought and character. And on actions again, all success or failure depends. So, whatever is our course of life, whether we succeed in life or fail in our life, it depends on our actions. On actions again, all success or failure depends. So, the success or failure, whatever is the course of our life, it depends on our actions. Hence, the plot is the imitation of the action. So, plot, the storyline is what? It is the imitation of the action. It is the representation of the action. For by plot, I here mean the arrangement of the incidents. So, what does he mean by the plot? What is the meaning of plot according to Aristotle? The meaning of plot is arrangement of the incidents. It is the sequence of the incidents of the play. By character, I mean that in virtue of which we ascribe certain qualities to the agents. So, what is character? What is the moral character? We give some qualities to agents. Some people are kind, some are loving, some are very full of anger. So, all these qualities, they define the character of a person. So, by character, I mean that in virtue of which we ascribe certain qualities to the agents. So, how the character of a person is decided? According to the qualities which he possesses. Though thought is required wherever a statement is proved. And thought, wherever you have to prove something, there you require thought. Thought is required wherever a statement is proved, or it may be a general truth is enunciated. So, if we have to enunciate means we have to explain. Enunciated, explained. So, wherever some truth is to be explained or wherever something is to be proved, there we require thought. Every tragedy, therefore, must have 6 parts. So, there are the 6 elements of a tragedy. There are 6 parts of a tragedy. And what are those parts? Which parts determine its quality? Namely, plot, character, diction, thought, spectacle, song. So, these are the 6 parts of a tragedy. 2 of the parts constitute the medium of imitation. So, out of these 6 parts, 2 are medium of imitation. And which are those 2 parts? Diction and song. They are the medium of imitation. Diction and song. So, these 2 parts are the medium of imitation. 1, the manner. Out of these 6 parts, One part is manner of imitation, and which is that one? Spectacle. Spectacle is the manner of imitation. And 3 the objects of imitation. Out of these 6 parts, 3 are the objects of imitation. And which are those 3 parts? Plot, character, thought. These 3 parts are the objects of imitation. And these complete the list. So this is the complete list of the parts of a tragedy. These elements have been employed, we may say, by the poets to a man. In fact, every play contains spectacular elements as well as character, plot, diction, song, and thought. So these elements have been employed, we may say, by the poets to a man. So by employing these elements, by using these 6 parts, by using these 6 elements, a poet represents the action of a man. In fact, every play contains spectacular elements. So in every play, in every drama, there is a spectacular element. Spectacular element means scenario, scene painting, as well as character, plot, diction, song, and thought. So all these elements are present in every tragedy, in every drama, in every play. But most important of all is the structure of incidents. So out of these 6 parts, according to Aristotle, the most important part is the structure of the incidents. And structure of incidents means plot. For tragedy is an imitation not of man but of an action and of life. So according to Aristotle, tragedy is not an imitation of man, of human being, but it is the imitation of an action. It is the representation of an action. So in a tragedy, human beings are not represented. In a drama, human beings are not represented. What is represented in a tragedy? An action. End of life. And what else is represented there? Life. So in a drama, there is the representation of action and of life. And life consists in action. So life, what is life? According to Aristotle, life is made up of actions of human beings. And its end is a mode of action, not a quality. So the end means purpose. The purpose of a tragedy is a mode of action, not a quality. So the quality of a human being is not as much important as his actions. A person may have a bad character, bad moral character, but if he doesn't do a bad action, then the course of his life will be different. For example, if a person thinks of committing a theft, it means he has a bad moral character because he is thinking of stealing something, of committing theft. But he will go to prison only when he commits the theft. Just thinking doesn't take him to the prison. So our life consists in our actions, not our thoughts or our moral qualities. It consists in our actions. Now, character determines men's qualities, but it is by their actions that they are happy or the reverse. So, you can say if a person possesses some bad qualities, he has a bad character. But it is his actions. It is decided by his actions whether he will be happy or unhappy in his life. It is decided by his actions, not by his character. Dramatic action, therefore, is not with a view to the representation of character. So, drama, according to Aristotle, is not the representation of character. Character comes in as subsidiary to the actions. So, character is secondary to the actions. On the first and foremost thing is plot. Character comes as subsidiary, means secondary. Primary thing is plot. Hence, the incidents and the plot are the end of a tragedy. So, the main target, main purpose of a tragedy is plot, incidents. And the end is the chief thing of all. So, the purpose is the main thing. Plot is the main thing. Again, without action, there cannot be a tragedy. There may be without character. So, according to Aristotle, without action, without plot, a tragedy is not possible. A tragedy without a character is possible, but not without a plot. The tragedies of most of our modern poets fail in the rendering of character, and of poets in general, this is often true. So, the tragedy of most of our modern poets. So, modern poets here doesn't stand for the poets of 20th century or 21st century. Modern term here stands for the poets that were contemporary to Aristotle. So, the tragedies of most of our modern poets fail in the rendering of character. According to Aristotle, the tragedies of his contemporary poets fail in depicting the character, in picturizing the character, in representing the character. Rendering stands for representing. And of poets in general, this is often true. And Aristotle says that generally, poets are unable to depict character properly. It is the same in painting. Now he is giving us the example of painting, and here lies the difference between Zeuxis and Polygnotus. So he is giving us the example of these two painters. Both of them were Greek painters. Polygnotus delineates character well. So this painter, Polygnotus, delineates means picturizes, represents, paints character well, means in a good way. The style of Zeuxis is devoid of ethical quality. The style of this painter, Zeuxis, is devoid of, means it lacks. Devoid of, it lacks, it wants. Of ethical quality, moral quality. So, the paintings of this painter, Zeuxis, are devoid of moral quality. Again, if you string together a set of speeches expressive of character and well finished in point of diction and thought, you will not produce the essential tragic effect nearly so well as with a play which, however deficient in these respects, has a plot and artistically constructed incidents. It's again a long sentence. Again, if you string together a set of speeches expressive of character, if on the stage there come actors and they speak out some speeches, some dialogues which express their character, which show their character, which display their character, and well finished in point of diction and thought. And those dialogues, they are full of great language and great thoughts, and they show character. So, dialogues of such type, you will not produce the essential tragic effect. All those dialogues which show the character of the actor and which have great language, which have great thoughts, they will not produce tragic effect. Means the audience will not feel the tragic effect. They will not give pleasure to the audience, to the spectator. Nearly so well as with a play which, however, deficient in these respects. Aristotle means to say that those speeches, those dialogues will not give as much pleasure to the audience as a play, which, however, deficient in these respects, which doesn't possess great thoughts, great diction, great character, but which has a plot. Which deficient in these respects, yet has a plot and artistically constructed incidents. Besides which, the most powerful elements of emotional interest in tragedy, peripecia or reversal of the situation, and recognition scenes are parts of the plot. Now, these two elements are the requirement of a good plot according to Aristotle. And what are these two elements? Peripecia means reversal of the situation. So, the plot of a tragedy should not go in a straight way, in a smooth way. It should have reversal of situation, means there must be a turn in the situation, a turn in the incidents of the play. The incidents of the play should not go in a straight direction. They should take a turn, U-turn. And recognition scenes. So, second requirement of a good plot is recognition. Means the protagonist or the other characters of the drama, they should recognize something which they were not aware of up till now. They should recognize something new. And this recognition scene imparts the feeling of surprise. So, in a drama, there should be the element of surprise. A further proof is that novices in the art attain to finish of diction and precision of portraiture before they can construct the plot. A further proof is that he is giving some proof that novices in the art, novices means beginners in the art of tragedy writing, attain to finish of diction and precision of portraiture. So the beginners of tragedy writing, they achieve the finish of diction, means they achieve a command over language, and precision of portraiture means they achieve a command over portraying the characters of their tragedy before they can construct the plot. So, before learning to construct a perfect plot, they learn good language and the depiction of good characters. It is the same with almost all the early poets. So, this has been the case of all the early poets of Greek literature. The plot then is the first principle and, as it were, the soul of a tragedy. So, he is reiterating his statement. He is emphasizing this statement again and again, that the plot is the first principle and, as it were, the soul of a tragedy. So, if tragedy is a living organism, then plot is its soul. And you know, a living organism is nothing if there is not soul. If a human being, the soul goes out of a human body, a living organism, then that human body or the body of that living organism is useless. So tragedy is also nothing. The tragedy is also useless without plot, and plot is the soul of a tragedy. Character holds the second place. So character comes on the second position. The first position is attained by plot. A similar fact is seen in painting. So again and again you see Aristotle is comparing poetry with painting. The most beautiful colors laid on confusedly will not give as much pleasure as the chalk outline of a portrait. The most beautiful colors. If you take the most beautiful colors and you throw them on a wall, you throw them on a canvas, or you throw them on a paper. So laid on confusedly, when you throw colors, it will be a confusing scene, will not give us as much pleasure. So all those beautiful colors will not give as much pleasure as the chalk outline of a portrait. If we take a chalk and we just make a drawing, we just make a sketch, it will please us. It will recreate us. It will give us pleasure. But those most beautiful colors, if they are thrown haphazardly on a canvas or on a wall or on a paper, they will not give us pleasure. Thus, tragedy is the imitation of an action and of the agents mainly with a view to the action. So, everything else in a tragedy becomes important only in terms of the action. Although all the other elements are also important. He has told us 6 elements of tragedy, and all of those elements are important. But their importance comes after only the importance of plot. Third in order is thought. So the first important thing was plot, second character, and third important element of a tragedy is thought. Third in order is thought, that is the faculty of saying what is possible and pertinent in given circumstances. So, what is thought? Thought is the faculty of saying. Thought is the capacity of saying what is possible and pertinent in given circumstances. So, if a circumstance is given to you, if a situation is given to you, if a topic is given to you and you are asked to speak on it, if you are asked to speak on a particular situation, then what is required for speaking on that situation? What is required? It is thought. If you don't have thoughts, you cannot speak on any situation, you cannot speak on any topic. The faculty of saying what is possible and pertinent in given circumstances. In the case of oratory, this is the function of the political art and of the art of rhetoric. So, in the case of oratory, public speaking. So, in the case of public speaking, this is the function of the political art and of the art of the rhetoric. So, political art means politics. If you have the knowledge of politics, politicians are very artful. So, it is the function of political art and of the art of rhetoric. Rhetoric is again the art of writing impressively or speaking impressively. Means when you have the capacity of speaking in such a way that you can impress others. Although you may not be sincere, although your writing may not be sincere, your speaking may not be sincere, but it impresses others, then it is rhetorics. If you can impress others by your speech, you are a rhetorician. So, the art of rhetoric. So, for public speaking, for oratory, you must know these two arts, political art and art of rhetoric. You must be an impressive speaker. You should know how to impress others. And so, indeed, the older poets make their characters speak the language of civic life. So, the older poets, they make their characters speak the language of civic life, means they make their characters speak an impressive language. The poets of our time, the language of the rhetoricians. So, the poets of the contemporary poets of Aristotle, they make their characters speak the language of rhetoricians. Impressive language. Character is that which reveals moral purpose, showing what kind of things a man chooses or avoids. So, what is character? Character shows our moral qualities. What kind of things a man chooses or avoids. So, our omission and commission, what we commit, what we omit, shows our moral character. Let me give you an example. If you get an opportunity to steal, nobody is watching you, and you get the opportunity to steal. Now, in this situation, whether you steal or not, whether you commit or omit, by that your character is decided, your moral character is decided. So, it shows moral purposes, showing what kind of things a man chooses or avoids. So, in that situation, if you steal something, if there is nobody to watch you and you steal something, you have a bad moral character. If you don't steal, you have a good moral character. So, your commission and omission, they decide your moral character. Speeches, therefore, which do not make this manifest, or in which the speaker does not choose or avoid anything whatever, are not expressive of character. So, if on the stage a character speaks some dialogues which don't show that he is choosing something, he is committing something, or he is omitting something, those speeches or those dialogues don't express the character. Those dialogues don't display the character. Thought, on the other hand, is found where something is proved to be or not to be, or a general maxim is enunciated. And thought, when we prove that something exists or does not exist, or we enunciate, I already explained to you, enunciate means explain. So, general maxim means proverb. When some popular proverb is explained, their thought is required. Fourth among the elements enumerated comes diction. So, the fourth element of tragedy is diction, by which I mean, as has been already said, the expression of the meaning in words. So, he has already explained the meaning of this term diction. It is the expression of meaning in words. And if you say in other words, you can say that diction stands for the language of, or diction stands for the vocabulary of tragedy. And its essence is the same both in verse and prose. So, vocabulary, terminology, language is important both in verse and prose. Of the remaining elements, song holds the chief place among the embellishments. So, among the linguistic embellishments, linguistic ornaments, song is the most important. The spectacle has indeed an emotional attraction of its own. Spectacle means scene, scenario, scene painting. So, spectacle, the decoration of the stage. On the stage, there is decoration and that is called spectacle, scenario, scene. So, that has emotional attraction. Means the audience is attracted by the scene painting. But of all the parts, it is the least artistic. Now, Aristotle emphasizes this, least artistic. And why? And connected least with the art of poetry. Why does he call it least artistic? Because it is not the function of poetry. Who decorates the stage? Who creates the scene on the stage? It is the theatre manager or stage manager. It is not the work of the poet. It is not concerned with the art of poetry. How the scene will be painted on the stage, it's the headache. It's who is to bother about it? The stage manager or the theatre manager has to bother about it, not the poet. So it's not the work of the poet. For the power of tragedy, we may be sure, is felt even apart from representation and actors. And Aristotle says that tragedy will give equal pleasure to the readers also. When apart from representation and actors means when there is no representation on stage. When the tragedy is not being performed on stage by the actors. Even then, tragedy will give us equal pleasure. Besides, the production of spectacular effects depends more on the art of the stage machinist than on that of the poet. So, as I already told you that stage is decorated. Spectacular effect means scene painting, scenario of the stage. So, it depends on the stage machinist means stage manager. Theatre manager. It is the work of theatre manager and not of the poet. So, Aristotle has called it the least artistic. Here comes to an end our 6th chapter. The next chapter in the next video. Thank you.